Today, we're going to be looking at the SITREP's 3 tips for VA claims. Now, I have not seen this video yet. It just popped up in my email about 5 minutes ago. So I'm going to comment on his 3 tips, as VA claims are extremely nuanced and very, very unique, and hopefully amplify these tips a little bit to give you the best information possible. So here we go. No, I have not seen this yet. Let's see what SITREP's got to say here.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the SITREP. By and large, the most frustrating process in the Department of Veterans Affairs is submitting a claim for VA disability. What do you claim? How do you prove it? Is this an initial claim, supplemental, secondary? And the list of confusion goes on and on. Well, today I'm going to give you a couple of pointers that will help you out, and pay special attention to the 3rd tip, because it can make all the difference in the world. But before I dive into the details, do me a favor and hit that like button and subscribe, which helps the SITREP in its mission of connecting veterans with the benefits they have earned and deserve. So let's get into it with tip number 1, which is have a diagnosis for the condition or illness you want to claim and have good supporting medical evidence.
I am surprised by this, actually. I could not agree more. Yes, times 3,000. Have a diagnosis and have the evidence for whatever it is you're claiming. The throwing stuff on a wall trick is not going to work. Okay, every single claim needs the in-service event. It needs a current diagnosis, and of course the Nexus. Let's hear how SITREP's going to disseminate this information real quick.
You may be watching this and thinking, well, duh, but you would be surprised how many people submit claims for conditions they have absolutely no medical evidence for. If you find yourself in a situation like this, submit an intent to file, which saves your place in line, so to speak, and gives you a year to gather medical evidence, collect buddy statements, and whatever else you need to do to present the best possible case when you submit your claim. The second tip I have has to do
evidence-based claims. That is the way to go. Okay,
with claims for presumptive conditions. The most well-known and misunderstood presumptive claim is Agent Orange. When filing a claim related to Agent Orange, you aren't filing because you were simply exposed to it. Instead, you are filing for an injury, or in most cases, an illness caused by the exposure, such as hypertension. If you simply submit a claim that says you were boots on the ground in Vietnam and exposed to Agent Orange, your claim is going to go nowhere. Take the time to verify that the injury or illness you wish to file a claim for is on VA's list of presumptive conditions. And do not forget to verify your location and dates of service that match their requirements. And lastly, tip number 3.
Yeah, super simple here. Going back, I'll just scroll back so we see tip number 2 here. Solid. I wouldn't have used Agent Orange as the example because it's that's the Vietnam era population, obviously, not to exclude the Korean veteran population. That's also included there. But same thing with the PACT Act. Okay, there is no such thing as a PACT Act claim. It's just PACT Act is a piece of legislation that was voted on and passed and signed, right? There are conditions under the PACT Act like hypertension under Agent Orange. Agent Orange exposure, or sinusitis, or rhinitis, okay, or bronchitis. There are also some MUCMIs, the medically unexplained illnesses. That gets a bit difficult, but totally agree. Being exposed means nothing other than you were exposed. What is the diagnosed condition? So not everyone who has been exposed to Agent Orange has hypertension, okay? It's just if you have hypertension and you were exposed to Agent Orange and or you meet the presumptive criteria on boots on the ground during whatever the time frames are, and there are many of them within the entire theater, that is how service connection is established for presumptive conditions. Okay.
Their requirements. And lastly, tip number 3, get a VA accredited veteran service officer. And yes, there is a huge difference between a VSO who is accredited and who is not. The 3 major differences are: 1, an accredited VSO has the legal authority to represent veterans in filing and appealing claims with VA. They can prepare, present, and submit claims for veterans and their families. A non-accredited VSO can offer general guidance, information, and assistance, but they cannot formally represent a veteran during claims or appeals. Number 2, an accredited VSO must undergo specific training, pass exams, and maintain their accreditation.
So I already know the majority of the veteran community on YouTube is going to disagree with this one. I agree with the SITREP here. I'm a fan of using VSOs. And my version, Clay's version here, CIVDIV's version of a picture-perfect claim, and let me go full screen here. The picture-perfect claim is a veteran understands the process just enough as it pertains to them. You know, I want to understand my evidence for sinusitis. I want to understand my symptoms for sinusitis. I want to understand my evidence for mental health. And same thing. I don't need to understand all of M21 TAC 1 or all of 38 CFR, just my claims. I want to submit these, bam, 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 bam. Maybe look at secondaries, maybe look at some denials. And then once I do that and I have my evidence, then I go to the accredited rep, okay? What I see a lot of veterans do, and it puts a bad taste in their mouth when it comes to accredited VSOs, whether that's like a national VSO like VFW or like your county or state VSO, is that veterans will not do step 1 and they'll walk into the VSO's office and say, hey, I want to submit claims. And the VSO is like, okay, well, what do you want to submit? And the veteran is like, well, I don't know. I thought you're supposed to tell me that. That's not how it works. You know, that VSO is not a trained medical professional going through 3,000 pages of medical records. They can ask you some questions and help you figure it out, but you're really doing yourself a disservice if you don't figure out what it is you want to claim in the first place. I always recommend veterans think head to toe. Migraines, TBI, mental health, tinnitus, hearing loss, Meniere's, vertigo, okay, respiratory issues, nose issues, scarring on the face, neck conditions, spine conditions, and kind of just go through head to toe, kind of like one of those charts, you know, where on your body does it hurt? And wherever you have pain at, find evidence from service, get the current diagnosis, submit that evidence-based claim, and you're using the VSO to not only submit that claim, but represent you and advocate for you throughout the process. That's my version of a picture-perfect claim. But let's go ahead and continue with SITREP here.
Through continuous annual training, whereas non-accredited VSOs have none of these standards and their knowledge base varies greatly. And 3, and perhaps most importantly, a VA accredited VSO can access certain VA systems like the Veterans Benefits Management System, also known as VBMS, which allows them to review veterans' claim files, submit evidence, and track the status of claims more effectively.
Yeah, all that's great. The issue is, and I agree with all of that, the issue is what you'll find in the veteran community, if you actually speak to them, is a lot of VSOs are not that good. That's a nice way to say it. They're definitely not created equally. Not all VSOs are the same. And it takes one interaction, just one. A veteran walks into VSO's office, that VSO is not good. And I'm saying that in a very generalized way, okay? The second that happens, that veteran, worst case scenario, they never file their VA claims because of that interaction, because they're going to associate the VSO with the VFW. If they're associated or not, which they are not, it doesn't matter. That's that veteran's reality. And so once that bad VSO experience happens, you potentially and most likely turn that veteran away from filing altogether, or pushing that veteran to a claim consulting company to help file that claim because they are better trained. Okay. And that's just the reality there. I think what the VA does and the VSOs do are they really forget the essence of why veterans are going to claims companies in the first place, or non-accredited individuals. And I would do a huge argument as that's at least in the top 3 reasons why, is they had one poor experience with the VSO who was trained, who sucked. And that's just to put it, be as real as I possibly can.
A non-accredited VSO cannot access VBMS, and they cannot submit claims or documentation through VA channels. So now you're probably wondering, how the HE double hockey sticks do I find an accredited VSO? Well, there are two ways. The first is by accessing VA's Finder tool. By visiting the link provided in the video description below, you can locate every VSO near to you that is currently accredited by VA. The other method is to reach out to one of our veteran service organizations like VFW and ask to be connected with an accredited VSO. So there you have it. 3 tips for submitting a claim for VA disability. As always, thanks for tuning in. Be sure to hit that.
Yeah. Overall, I thought those tips were really good, especially that first one. If I had to choose which one was the best, it's definitely the first one. Evidence-based claims will get your claim approved. In fact, it's the only thing that gets your claim approved. It's not what VSO you use. It's not what company you use, what attorney you use. It is your evidence. Your evidence is always what pushes your claim to service connection. That's all I got, and hope you got value from that. If you did, like, subscribe, comment below what you think about SITREP's 3 tips. I thought they were pretty good.